she was saying that a relative had been married twice. Both of her husbands had died. And somebody came up to her and went, well, don't worry, third time lucky.
Oh my God. Wow.
I mean, that's wild.
Is that when she turned around and she said the poison did work though?
Oh,
third time lucky. Yeah.
It's a dead center. Ooh, yeah.
Well considered. And where all words fail, just swear. I find that can work. It's a really good filler.
Sometimes.
in the right audience. Okay. Probably not delivering something, really important.
No, probably not. Mind you, I do occasionally.
So when we met you at Bromyodo, didn't we? So that was a library event.
Yeah.
And were you doing something there? Were you helping out?
No, because I sit on the board of Bromyodo as well.
Okay, right. So Suzanne McArthur.
Suzanne
McArthur. Yeah. Sorry, we've just said that, haven't we?
No.
Fuck's sake.
Don't worry, you made me feel a lot better.
Yeah. I think this could be an interview where we could possibly see who could brop the Gliggits clanger. There you go. I've done it.
You've done it already,
Brop Gliggits clanger. Anybody else want to brop a clanger?
For fuck's sake.
No. There's an edit.
So people think we've all been on the pop.
I know, yeah. I mean, I wish.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
I think I'd be a better person if I had been. I'd actually be able to articulate myself better.
You're fantastic. I don't know what you're talking about.
But you are both really good anyway.
Oh, thank you. So your company is called Evolve and Flourish.
It depends on which one you want to do. So I've got the Evolve and Flourish, which is the limited company, or the
Friday night.
This is absolutely quality. This is so good already.
I'm going to start laughing halfway through it. Thriving Connections, which is my CIC. So they both do similar things.
Okay. Well, tell us about them both. So start with Evolve and Flourish.
So Evolve and Flourish is my limited company, and that's the company I deliver a lot of the grief awareness training sessions to the public, to workplaces, to organisations, and end-of-life planning workshops to the community as well. So I suppose it's the delivery arm. The umbrella company is Thriving Connections, community interest company. And the focus of that is around addressing the barriers that different communities face accessing good end-of-life care support and accessible and appropriate grief support. So we use that to apply for grants and funding to work with communities to co-develop grief awareness training projects or end-of-life planning projects. But all our work is co-developed with communities to make sure that it's accessible, it's appropriate, it's what they want.
Are you operating just in the West Midlands, or are you nationwide?
I'll go anywhere that'll have me.
Not picky, ladies and gentlemen.
Not picky. So I'm off to Leicester in December to deliver a grief awareness session to a company that support businesses.
Is it mostly corporate that you're delivering to?
Hardly any corporates.
Okay.
It's more, I'd like to deliver more to corporates, but it's more community-based organisations, charities, community groups and the public. Yeah.
So the work that you're delivering relies solely on funding for you to be able to deliver that?
Yeah, unless an organisation is willing to pay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is why you'd like more corporate. Big shout out to the corporate world if you'd like some bereavement training.
Yeah,
definitely. Or a podcast episode.
Yeah.
Or both. So you've had years of experience of doing this. 30 years of experience.
So I'm an occupational therapist. I still practice as an occupational therapist as well. So I've always worked in end-of-life care. So as an occupational therapist, I started off in elderly medicine. So I was always working with people approaching end of life. Right. Then moved into oncology and then left and did lots of different things within the NHS, and then left the NHS 10 years ago to work for Curie. I moved into the hospice sector to focus on palliative care and end-of-life care.
Worked there. Curie in Solihull?
Yeah.
Did we have this conversation before? Because my sister was there for a little time.
I might have done.
Might have done. Yeah. She did before she did her masters, it might have just been after she was at Marie Curie. She's Sophie Skip. But
I think we did, and I said I don't recognise her name.
Some years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. She loved her time there.
Oh, it's brilliant.
How
Loved
long
it.
were you with them?
8 years.
Oh, wow.
But then my post was made redundant because of the national hospice funding crisis. And I became head of ops for Marie Curie for the Midlands. But that just wasn't my bag. I'm very much a person. I love to network. I love to engage with the public. That's where I get my buzz. I love being with different communities and learning what's different and what's important to them. And I was sat behind a desk. People didn't even know I'd been in because it was literally, I'd get in early and it was on call 24/7. Yeah, it wasn't for me. So I left there and was head of community development and partnerships at Birmingham Hospice for 2 years. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Was an autonomous worker working with the diverse communities across the city, looking at what does good end-of-life care look like for you? How can we work with you to ensure that you get accessible care that's appropriate and meaningful? And working with HMP Birmingham, the inmates there, to co-develop grief awareness training for them.
Wow.
Amazing.
That's really...
It was brilliant. Loved it. And then I was made redundant from there because of the hospice funding crisis. And that's when I set up my 2 companies to carry on the work because I just love it.
So you've taken everything that you've done previously. Are you almost replicating that on your own now?
Some of it I'm replicating. So a lot of the grief awareness training is based upon, the foundations of it are based upon what I've worked on over the years. I'd say the community connections I've made have been extremely valuable from my previous work to starting work. I just say it's the transferable skills.
Yeah.
That's the bit, even as an occupational therapist, you have to have that ability to build a rapport.
And not everybody's got that.
And not everybody's got it.
Yeah. And I think that's something you can't teach.
No.
You've either got it or you haven't.
And compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all of those things. So I'd say, so answering your question in a very long way, I've always dealt with end-of-life care, but I've not always done what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So I've sort of developed and merged and moulded
It's brought
it.
you to this career now.
Do you
Fantastic.
do you get to see that whole journey? So when you're delivering education about bereavement, end of life, how we are best equipped for it, which is obviously what we're in it for as well.
Yeah.
Do you get to see that journey with a particular community or group of people where you're delivering something and then you're seeing it being used in any capacity, or is it kind of...
No, you can see it within 24 hours in some cases. So I was delivering a big project in Birmingham last year, delivering some of this training. And it was literally getting emails off some of the attendees that evening saying, I can't believe how useful the training's been. I got home and found my neighbour had died. And if I hadn't been on your training today, I wouldn't have known what to have said and I would have avoided them.
Yes.
So you can get that instant
wow,
satisfaction and see it learning.
Did you develop all the training yourself then?
I'd say that this training I have, but it's all co-developed. So if I'm working with a specific community, I'll co-develop that. So we've been really pleased. We've just won some funding with 2 neighbourhood network schemes in Birmingham and working in partnership with Together Minds, which is another community interest company. And we are going to be co-developing grief awareness training with people who've got learning disabilities to be delivered to people with learning disabilities, because there's a huge gap there.
Yeah, massive.
Because people will avoid talking about grief and loss to that community. Yeah, but even more with that community, because there's that feel of I've got to protect them or they won't understand. And so they're totally isolated from any of those conversations and they don't get taught about it. We're going to be co-developing that training, but the core elements are going to be the same as, so you've got core elements that runs throughout, but then you will shape it with the community to make it meaningful and appropriate to them.
And how is the delivery? Is it more you talk about it? Is it like a group discussion? Is there activities? What does the training consist of?
It depends on what they want. So the learning disability one, I don't know what it's going to look like until they tell us what they want it to be. It could be, we know through focus groups, they already want it to be a series of workshops about an hour long. They want it to be interactive. They want to use activities, So I don't know what that's going to look
Potentially
like.
art, music, things
Anything
like
and
that.
everything,
Yeah,
I think it's going to be.
podcasting.
absolutely.
It could be. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? So I don't know what that's going to shape like. Some of the others, some of the public ones, because they're only an hour, it's me talking and them. A lot of them will, I'll encourage them to share their stories, to build on, the meat on the bones of what I've spoken about. That always works really well. The discussions are always two ways. And then with the organisations, can be anything from a 2.5 hour workshop to 3.5 hour workshop. So the 2.5 hour, it's got the same, the core elements the same, but then there's some group activities. The one I delivered today to healthcare students, to occupational therapy students, that's got an element in around working in the healthcare setting and the importance of identifying grief and the importance of self-care and things. So there's some other activities involved in that. So that's a lot more interactive. So it depends on the audience and what
because
they
you've
want.
done that job as well, you can sort of draw on your experience as an occupational therapist.
And that's one of the reasons I was so driven to get this into the healthcare setting, because as an OT, as any healthcare professional, you're not taught anything about understanding loss and grief, and you are dealing with it every day.
And not even.
Unless what?
Unless you're working within palliative care, and then
that's the only time.
That's the only time.
Yeah.
And
even
isn't that remarkable?
Yeah.
Isn't it remarkable?
Yeah.
We're all. It's the one certain thing.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely the case.
Yeah.
That when you talk to some healthcare professionals, it's like that sort of basic compassion you might expect is bedside manner.
The nail on the head.
To a point where it's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing. So if you add into that grief, which is really, really actually complicated and not linear and doesn't have a pattern, and then you're confronted by a healthcare professional that doesn't know how to speak to you about it, you are going to feel more isolated than you did to start
angry.
with. Yes.
And so I will deliver this to the public, as I said, and the number of times I've heard back the lack of compassion that nurses have, the lack of compassion that doctors have. And I will support the staff and I'll be like, actually, the compassion is there, but
they've done 13 hours.
Well, there's that, but they also haven't been taught about the importance of or how to have a compassionate conversation. So I always give my examples, as an OT, a new graduate OT, working in elderly medicine, and I'm embarrassed to say this on a podcast, but I always own up. We weren't taught what to say. So you say what you think is going to bring comfort.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, actually, they're the worst things. And that's why
you get the anger.
The anger, because it's like, how can you be so insensitive?
Yeah. It's like telling someone
you said something really
nice.
It's like telling someone to calm down.
Time will heal. Calm down.
Calm down when they're angry. Calm down.
Yeah,
Don't fucking tell me to calm down. That's just going to inflame.
I used to think, saying, I used to see these elderly people having these long drawn out deaths and then somebody who died really peacefully and quickly. So I would think it was going to be a comfort to say, well, at least it was quick.
Yeah.
Actually, it doesn't give a hoot whether it was quick or not. Their loved one has died and they want their loved one with them. And that, that's just a total lack of sensitivity. But
then is
it
better to say something than nothing? I'd argue it's sometimes better to get it wrong. Than to say nothing.
I say totally the opposite, and I teach totally the opposite.
Really?
If you don't know what to say
nothing.
If you don't know what to say, I'm really sorry, I don't know what to say, but I am so sorry you're going through this.
But you're still acknowledging it.
You're acknowledging it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't say it, you're isolating them even more.
As a basic premise, if you could educate every single soul on the face of the planet to say that sentence, we would be onto a winner.
Exactly.
We would be onto this totally different, sort of trajectory, wouldn't we, of what is possible? Because once we've learned that kind of sentence, so the reason I said what I said is because I was brought up in a way that was very open, very caring, lots of love.
Exactly,
really
same
wonderful.
as me. Yeah.
So my mum and dad, neither of them are here now. So, but they taught me and my sister to say something.
Yeah.
They also gave us a skill set of what to say.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was, I'm really sorry. Here's a sentence that I really love to this day. And it's shit.
Yeah.
And
it's so shit for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's so bad. It's so painful. I don't want people to say to me, do you know what? It will get better. Do you know what? Time will heal. Because
that's just assumptions though, and they're not helpful.
And sometimes it is the case for some people, but more
It's
often
not
than
for
not,
everybody.
it's not, is
No.
it? And actually what you want, I mean, Carrie and I are both in the absolute throes of grief at the moment. We talk about it a lot. You know, each day is different, and you don't want somebody to come along and sort of give you an they're there and a little huggy pat, or you want somebody to give you a proper hug or look you in the eye and say, I can't imagine what this is like for you. I don't know what this is like for you.
But I'm here for you.
Yeah.
I think even when I worked in emergency services, they don't teach you anything like that. You're actually dealing with like life and death.
Yeah. So I've just
amazing?
started.
Isn't it?
It is
And
crazy.
family, like who are in the immediacy of somebody dying.
Yeah. And the problem we've got is within the healthcare sector, I was fortunate. I managed to get my foot finally in the door of a hospital to deliver the session, really well received. They booked another 3 sessions, but they then couldn't release the staff from the wards to attend the session. So it's like, actually, I'm onto a no-brainer there. So now I'm teaching students before they get into that healthcare setting.
Perfect.
And paramedics, they're booked in. We've got the OTs, we've got physios, we've got nursing students, because unless we do it while in their training, they're not going to have that opportunity.
That brings me really nicely onto what I want to talk to you about next. And you and I did have a very brief conversation at Birmingham Library about this, but are you delivering at all to young people or children?
So I don't personally, because that's not my area of special expertise, and I would not. I will always hold my hands up and say, I'm not an expert in that, so no, I will signpost you to someone else. So I always recommend that if people want these sessions to children and young people, that they either go to Child Bereavement UK, Winston's Wish, and those two have amalgamated now. They've merged. I would be going to those specialist services, because children and young people will deal with grief very differently to adults.
Yeah.
And a lot of my work is around, educated people, signposting where are the resources of support, signposting them to those websites. So if they've got children that they need to talk to about the death of a loved one or somebody is dying, they know what to say. They can go onto the websites, get the information, instead of using all these euphemisms that confuse children.
Yeah. They've passed on.
What the hell they've passed? Yeah, exactly.
Or have they gone?
They've gone to heaven. Well, they can come back.
Yeah. And also, what's heaven?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not all religious.
Exactly. So there's so many resources. I will always signpost people to those resources and those charities to get that expert help. So I would say I focus definitely more on adults, 18
The reason
plus.
that we ask is because it's something Carrie and I are quite interested in doing. We don't know a huge amount about it. We are looking into it, whether it's something we could deliver ourselves, because we've got young children, and because, recently I've had to sit down with my own children and say, Grandad has died.
Yeah.
And I learned from the ladies at Primrose how to use that language. Yeah. Because Primrose being, they were palliative care nurses, and they talked a lot about language.
About bringing back the word dead.
Let's not.
Died.
It's not ambiguous.
No,
we need it to be really. And my children, the way they reacted was, my son's deeply emotional, so he was quite wild and loud, and my daughter just left the room. Yeah. But they're 7 and 8, so this is kind of what you'd expect. But there was no room for, what does that mean, Mum?
Exactly.
What does it mean?
Or creating a different scenario in their own heads. I think there's that, going back to what I would feel comfortable doing is your sixth formers.
Yes.
And develop,
really
around peer support, building, you've got then young people being aware of the loss that they're going to deal with. And it's not just grief.
Yeah.
You've got divorces of parents, that's the loss, breakdown of relationships, identities, friendships when they leave. You've got so many losses. Yeah. So I think it's about
emotional intelligence, isn't it? And sort of allowing them to explore how they're feeling and know that feelings are meant to be felt, and it's okay to talk about it.
How you feel.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
I think that's the biggest problem, isn't it? And at that age group, it can be quite, they try to hide so much.
I think it's why we are interested in children and young people, particularly, because it goes back to what we were saying before. If everybody was equipped with that one sentence, but if children and young people were equipped with something. So the average junior school bereavement policy won't even be dusted off until somebody, a parent dies or whatever. And, you know, my children go to a very small village school, but there've been parental deaths in that school. It's very small, and it happens. It actually happens all the time, everywhere.
It happens more frequently than people realise.
But I think that we are still in a state of, you know, depending on who the head of the school is, depending on what their resources are, we're still, we're going to address it. We probably will tell the children in a way that they can maybe deal with. Is the school religious? Is that going to have an effect? There's all these different things coming into play. I think our feeling on it is, if, you know, it's obviously got to be palatable and right for the age group and age appropriate. But if there was some kind of understanding, what do we do when a child is bereaved? What do we do as other children in that peer group when a child is bereaved?
And for me as well, sorry to interrupt, it's just for teenagers and young adults, especially in Birmingham and in the West Midlands, they have a whole set of different, they need somebody who can understand what they're going through as teenagers in a city and all the other things that come with that. And we think that, you know, delivering it in a certain way would be suitable for them.
And I think, like you've just said, the sixth form, let's say sixth form, A-level, whatever we're going to, that age group, they are young adults. They are young people, but they're young adults with a much better, you know, you could still deliver to them something that's probably going to profoundly change somebody's life, that either theirs personally or somebody really close to them, because they might be that person that just says something.
Exactly. And for me, that's the biggest thing about empowering people from a younger age to feel confident in offering that support. Because
like
that's when you don't get that isolation of teenagers and then going down that awful mental health route. You know, we know there's so much mental health issues out there. But even, you know, these skills are so transferable.
It's not just for grief,
it's not just
for life.
They are life skills. But the fortunate thing is, and I'm sure you know, it's now being approved by Parliament that loss and grief is going to be part of the national curriculum.
I know, for 2026.
So at least
finally
there's a step forward.
But it's slow.
It is. And there's still nothing about death.
Isn't that interesting?
And it's just like, hold on, this is, we know how, you know, we talked about sexual reproduction, we talked about childbirth, but we're still not taught about what happens when you die.
We've laughed about how useful this would be if, when a child comes to like GCSE or whatever, they've got to do some work experience, that it was like mandatory that they had to go and work in end-of-life care or a nursing home or in a geriatric ward, you know, however we're going to say it. Not for any other reason than to see it. Because unless Nan's died, unless Grandad has been unwell and they're actually exposed to it, these young people they've got no idea that that's what it looks like. End of life care is actually, it can be pretty awful, especially in a hospital setting.
But there is. But then I suppose my argument would be that the people that are in those settings are a minority. So there are a lot of people out in the communities that do age well and die well. You know, both my grandmas were 98 and died at home, independent, living on their own.
That's some good genes.
There's some good heritage there.
I'm here for a while, ladies.
She's going nowhere.
There's a different way of doing it. I think it's, you know, it's about starting that education about death from a very early age, of comparing, you know, your dead flowers and your living flowers.
Isn't it?
Your dead insects and your...
Well, they do. This life cycle.
Exactly. But they
life cycle of butterfly, but it's not, the emphasis isn't on the death.
And there are so many different ways of letting people know. I mean, Catherine Mannix has done the most beautiful, I'm sure you've seen her videos. She does it in cartoon form. She does just a description of what happens when somebody dies. And it's the most beautiful description. It reduced me to tears, and I was known at work as the hard-faced bitch. You know,
it's not true.
It reduced me to tears, and it took away all the fears, because she spoke so clearly and compassionately. And it's the speech she used to give to her patients. She's an ex-palliative care consultant. Of this is what to expect.
This is the author, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's beautiful. And even just to have something like that in the classroom as part of, I don't know whether it be social sciences or whatever they call the lessons are called
that
now.
They can associate with.
So
and
they don't
something
have
that's
to
almost peer-led.
It's, this is what happens.
Yeah.
So actually they are prepared when somebody
and
is at end of
children
age.
are quite hardy, aren't they? I mean,
They're quite matter of fact.
they are.
They are.
When they ask you a question, if you answer them directly and there's no room for anything else, my two are just like, okay.
Yeah.
And then,
Totally.
go off and do Minecraft.
As
or whatever it is.
adults, as adults, we're the ones that are more worried about what to say and overprotective. Children, especially around grief, children will just, there's that phrase, isn't there? Puddle jumpers.
Yes, I've heard that.
Yeah.
Recently.
So 1 minute they'll be asking you something and can be upset, and the next minute it's like, okay, what's for tea, Mum?
My two jump into really dark, deep puddles just at bedtime. Every night.
Absolutely wonderful.
I'm upset. Why? Because of Grandad.
Yeah.
But you're not upset at any other time, though, are you?
But do you think that, though, is because they haven't got the distractions of the daytime?
It's exactly that.
Yeah.
In the same way that they would worry
and they
about
don't want to go to
school.
sleep.
Exactly.
And they'd rather stay in my bed. All of those things. So, Suzanne, we now know what it is you do, the delivery you do, and what are your plans moving forward? Have you got any sort of bigger ideas about where you want to go, or are you quite happy with how things are at the moment?
To get a regular income.
That would be delightful.
That would be delightful, a steady regular income.
You did say you're still working as an OT as well?
Bank work, yeah. So that's just a supplement while things are going. What I would really like to happen for example, the learning disability grief awareness, there's nothing like that, as we know, that's out there. So if, this is going to be a pilot project, to be able to roll that out would be brilliant. So it's those, for this, for the work that I do, to be able to be rolled out on a grander scale, a bigger scale, so the reach is more, the healthcare students, I'd love to be delivering it to other universities on a regular basis. So actually every second year that is due to go out on placement before they go out,
a massive impact, wouldn't it?
They'd be having it. Yeah.
Imagine that over, if that was your sole thing over the next couple of years, how many people you could educate that way who are then going to go up through that healthcare system. And it's that
reach, isn't it? And that ripple effect of actually, if you just train that one cohort.
Yeah. And the thing is, they've got the ability, if they're going into these sorts of jobs, it's just they need the permission. They need the permission
and
to say it's okay
skills.
to use those words.
Yeah.
It's okay to talk like that.
Yeah.
That's
and please don't use those words.
Yeah.
I think it's
amazing.
I think we've learned so much about language around death, haven't we? And when you think, well, Carrie, it works in the job that she does, but I mean, you're not often talking to families. I mean, I know that there are
occasionally. I'm not really talking to alive people.
But
often to dead people. But I do think we weave magic with our words, and we have to be really purposeful about what we say.
Yeah.
And words can do so much damage.
Oh gosh.
So, we have to be mindful, and especially like in jobs like mine, but just in life, people are going through shit, aren't they? Yeah. People are
all
grieving, people are losing people are dying left, right and centre. We have to be mindful about what we say. We have to use the right terminology.
Well, actually, I heard one this week. This was awful. So a lady was sharing this story in one of the sessions, and she was saying that a relative had been married twice. Both of her husbands had died. And somebody came up to her and went, well, don't worry, third time lucky.
Oh, my God. Wow.
I mean, that's wild.
Is that when she turned around and she said, the poison did work, though? Third time lucky. Yeah. Is it true?
She's like Black Widow or something.
She skulks off like that.
Yeah.
There are
some people. It's just sometimes it's not a joke time, is it?
Well, the thing is, we personally feel that there's always space for humour.
Yeah. There is, and I think if you work in that industry, there's always dark humour.
Absolutely.
When I worked in the hospice, the dark humour is needed because that's your release.
Yeah.
That's how you cope with all of the horrible stuff that is going around. You've got to have a dark sense of humour.
Yeah.
And
some are darker than others.
Yeah, exactly. And as long as you're not doing that dark humour with the patients and the relatives, however, some patients have got a dark sense of humour, but that's their coping mechanism.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely what's going through them.
I don't know if I told you this, Carrie, but so my dad has died recently and it was quite sudden. And when we got to the hospital, they're rallying around, nobody knowing what the fuck's going on and getting it wrong. And my sister and I sat with him, and he's dead, and it's all quite shocking. And they bring in this very, very young person who doesn't know what to say to us at all, who I believe is the doctor in charge of the ward at the time my dad died. And he comes in this low, hushed voice, and he says, "Is there anything I can do?" And I said, "Yes, attachments."
I bet he fucking shit his pants, didn't he? Like, what?
And me and my sister are sat there. My sister's pregnant and our dad is dead in the middle of us. And I'm just so fucked off by this point. I just think I haven't got anything in the bank left.
Yeah.
So either you get on board and laugh with me about the tap dance, and the poor bastard, so sorry.
He didn't tap dance.
He just went. And for those of you who can't see this because it's not being filmed, it was just horror.
A long
just
stare.
horror. And I just said, it's all right. We're okay about it.
Yeah, it's harsh, isn't it?
But that's me. I needed to do that because actually all that had been delivered to me for an hour and a half was one hard hit after another. We did this wrong.
Yeah.
This happened.
Yeah.
This shouldn't have happened. Blah, blah, blah. No one could tell us, what time did he die? Nothing. So I was like, by the time this guy appeared.
Poor guy as well.
And he was young. I mean, he was
But I think
so
that's
young.
the problem.
And
though,
you're
isn't it?
sarcastic.
No, I'm horrible like that.
But that's one of the challenges. You've got a young workforce that have got no life experience.
And and like you've just said, where's their training in delivering
Exactly.
that?
Exactly.
I mean, a lot of adults, they get to ripe age without having lost anybody. When my brother died, and he'd had cancer for 2 years, somebody who was close to me said, "Well, you knew it was coming."
That is so common. God.
And I was like,
does it matter
Okay.
if I knew it was coming or not?
She said,
I've still lost my
Thanks.
brother.
well, I think I
great.
probably dropped an F-bomb or two when I
Good for
left.
you.
But
Yeah.
I was not impressed that, at least you sort of knew it was coming.
And that's because people think there's a hierarchy to grief.
Yeah.
That one grief is worse than another person's grief. And if it's this scenario, well, that's better than that scenario.
Isn't that interesting? And I'll put my hands up to this, that I think I fitted into that 7 years ago. So I lost my mum when I was in my very early 30s. She was only 60 and my sister was 24. It wasn't the best situation. But I remember having a friend, a nameless friend, who had lost his mother, but he was 20 years older than me. So she was 20 years old. And I was thinking, well, you just got her for loads longer. Why are you so upset? I remember really feeling that. And probably within a year thinking, it's still his mom. It's his mom. He's lost her the same way I've lost my mom. And his grief is no worse or not better. There isn't, like the word you use, there isn't a hierarchical system for that in any way at all. But actually, I think you don't really recognise that, especially if I lost my nan at 98 and she went peacefully in her sleep, compared to, I lost my brother at 45 and it was absolutely fucking awful. It's not, it doesn't mean
It's not
It doesn't mean that one person is going to grieve any less than the other one, and one is worse than any of the other.
Yeah.
It's
that's a hard lesson to learn.
It's really hard, and it's really hard to also recognise that if you've lost somebody similar. So I use these things of, thank goodness my mum is still fit and well. But, I've got friends whose mums have died. If when my mum dies, a friend comes up to me and is like, "Really sorry to hear your mum's died. I know how you feel. I went through that." Actually, you have no idea. I used to say, "I know how you feel," because I used to think it was a way of connecting.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you don't know how I feel because it's totally different. Grief is a very individual
It depends on the
experience, and you don't know what the relationship's like. Exactly.
Yeah.
And our feelings totally different. And as soon as somebody says, "Oh, I know how you feel," or "I went through that," the focus of attention goes off the person who's grieving and it goes on to that person.
Yeah.
But I think
And it pushes them out
think
again.
as human nature, we've got a tendency to do that.
We
all
do
of
try
us.
and find something that we can grab onto. Yeah.
And that's why I say, unless you're taught about it and it's highlighted, that's what we do.
Yeah,
Because
it's natural.
that's how we think it's the right way to connect. But it's only now in hindsight, I'm like, that's not the thing to do. Actually, and it's like you said, one of you said earlier, instead of saying, that's really bad, or I know how you feel, I can't begin to imagine what you're going through. Or that might have been somebody I was teaching this morning. It's all blurring into one.
Yeah.
Because you cannot imagine.
You can't.
You both might have gone
think
through something
as it-
similar, but actually you cannot imagine what that person's going through.
I think it's human nature to try and sort of find a common ground with somebody.
Yes.
I remember my sister-in-law saying after her mum died of pancreatic cancer, and it was very fast, And somebody said to her, well, at least she's not in pain. And she was like, well, she was never in fucking pain. But actually, she wasn't in pain. And what do people say to that? They're like, oh, that's just something we should say. And we feel like we should get that connection quickly with somebody.
Well, we feel like, as well, when people say something to us, if you're the one in grief and somebody says to me, depending on what kind of person you are, for me, if they've said to me and I think, ugh, awful thing to say, I will try and make them feel better.
Oh, yeah. I had that said, raised, in the workshop earlier in the week. It's like, and it's that lady who had, that person say, or third time lucky. And I said, oh, what did your mum say? She said she was so shocked. She had to laugh. She said, but she felt that she didn't want to say anything in case she upset the person who said it.
Yeah.
And then everybody,
it's quite a British thing. We're quite a British
I think so.
Kind of
because
thing.
Everybody was like, oh, yes, that happened to me. Somebody said this. And I thought, oh, no.
Because we can't
say anything. Yeah, because you don't want to upset. Yeah. It's just like, actually, the grieving person's the one we're supposed to be supporting, and then the grieving person
but you don't want to
being the one that's not wanting to upset the other.
But you don't want to look unreasonable as the griever and be like, actually, fuck off. It's not funny.
Yeah.
Because then we look like we're mad, don't we? So we're angry and we're grieving.
Isn't it the same premise as, like how British people particularly, hello, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. I mean, if we actually said, how do you feel? Awful, I'm in grief and I'm tired out and I don't want to do the shopping. Nobody actually says how they feel because we're all just dealing in pleasantries all of the time. But maybe it's part of the movement that the three of us could really go.
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
If you feel shit,
do you want the truth?
Tell them.
Yeah. How much truth do you want? A little bit?
Yeah, but that would be a good response, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And we do say that sometimes, don't we? Do you want to just throw that in the honesty fire?
Yeah.
How shit are you feeling today?
How's today? Not great, I'll be honest.
But you've used a really useful word there today. So that's another thing, isn't it? That people will say, how are you? And it's like, well, you can fake it anyway, like you said. But if you add that word on today, it shows that grief is on a continuum.
Yeah.
And it's not just a one-off. You were
we're
feeling shit
yesterday, beings, aren't we? We're up and down. And I found it this time round with this particular journey of grief. Sadly, I've lost a few people and most of us have, this is completely different to me. Like new levels. Like I actually had to have my sister point out to me a week and a half ago. I said, I'm so miserable. I've got apathy, can't be bothered, don't want to see anyone, don't want to get out. I must be due on, all of these things. She's like, well, our dad died 7 weeks ago.
You're grieving.
Yeah. And she's a bereavement counsellor. She's like, you're really fucking sad. Have you thought about having a cry? And I was like, all right, okay. And I had a massive cry and then, felt instantly better. But I mean,
in that moment.
Yeah. And then got the next day and I was like, well, I've got to go and do a show or do something and be all right. I'm all right in public. And
I'm sure that when we were talking about, we had an interview earlier and we were saying, I texted you, didn't I? And I said, so I'll see you at about this time. We'll have a couple of hours crying and feeling miserable and then we'll just pretend we're fine for 2 hours and then we'll go about our day.
Yeah.
Because that's what you do to make people feel better.
That's so true, isn't it?
But it's hard. It's hard going. So because you're sort of surrounded by death all the time, how do you feel about it for yourself? Is it something that scares you? Are you quite...
No, it doesn't scare me. It doesn't scare me at all. And I was similar to you. I was brought up in a household where my parents openly talked about death and dying. I mean, my parents bought each other a funeral plan for Christmas the 1 year.
So romantic.
I know. Who says romance is dead?
I'd be all right with that. I'd be okay with it.
Really? And,
as long as you're having those open, candid, as long as it's not out the blue.
Yeah, can you imagine? Be like, okay, what's going on?
Wow.
And then you just buy some patio slab.
Like,
what the fuck is happening here?
Just going to update the will.
Yeah. But even on Father's Day, we were having a big lunch and we were laughing about, and my dad's still alive, what was going to go on his tombstone when he dies. And that's that dark humour, isn't it? So we've always openly been spoken about it. My children have been brought up in the same, and obviously me doing the job that I do, death is a normal part of life for them. Obviously it's going to be really sad when somebody dies.
It doesn't make it less sad, but are you better equipped? Yes,
totally. And my nephew died last year. He was only 22. And I suppose because of the knowledge and experience that I've got, and I could stand as an outlooker, I can see what my my sister's going through and my brother-in-law. So I've been able to provide that support. And everyone's like, oh, well, how did you cope with it? And I suppose I'm able to distance myself. And I'm that sort of person that I will always, if something happens, I'll be like, okay, well, that's because of that. So, you know, if I'm getting emotional, I'm like, oh, that's because my limbic system has kicked in and it's not talking to my prefrontal cortex. And that's my way of coping with it.
It's rationalising it.
It is.
Making sense of it.
Yeah.
And if that's how your brain works, then that's how your brain works.
And I'll still have my cries and all of that. But I do go into professional mode quite quickly.
But if that's your forte and you feel like at least you can sort of identify what they need in that time, especially when they're such close family members.
Yeah.
You know,
it must have been very hard for you, though. You must have found that. Did you come away from that situation after, you know, giving the advice and being that person and finding a moment on your own and thinking, shit,
you get compassion burnout.
Yeah.
Because then you haven't got, and I'm still there for them 100%. But then you've got the other things that go on in your life that people need your help and support. And I just had not got that capacity to give that help and support. And I was like, that is minuscule compared to this.
What I need right now.
This is where my energy is. And I'm sorry, I haven't got time to give you that support.
And do you know what, though? As you get older, it's easier to do that. To say, well, at the minute, I haven't got capacity for anything else. So, sorry, you're going to have to go and do your own fucking lunch and you're going to have to go and do this because I've got to deal with this right now. And that's great that you can do that.
Yeah.
So have you got plans in place for you if you pass away? If you got pass away?
Oh yeah, I've got my folder ready.
The old words. If you die.
If I die.
When you kick the bucket.
Yeah.
No, you're not using that one.
No, we're using died. No, I went away on holiday and I said to the children before I went away, I was like, so you know where my funeral plan is. I've got all my funeral wishes. I said, you know what songs I want? It's all written down.
And they're like, have a nice holiday, Mum.
And they're like, oh, God, not again, Mum.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you don't know. You'll be coming back, but you don't know. I said, and that, you know, the folder is in the cupboard. It's the red folder. Everything's prepared.
Everyone's got the red folder.
I've even asked my children, what funeral songs do you want? Because we know, you know, we didn't expect my nephew to be
and it's not always the natural order.
It's not, exactly. And, you know, fortunately, my sister was brave enough to have those conversations, but it was on his deathbed.
Yeah.
And you just think, actually, I haven't got to have that because I now know what my children will want.
Yeah.
And because it's done, and this is what I would really encourage your listeners to do, while you are fit and well, have these conversations because it takes away that emotion. You can have it and use opportunities. So if EastEnders is on, I don't watch EastEnders because there's that much death and trauma, but
too much despair.
It's you know, you see something on the telly or a famous celebrity has died, use it as an opportunity to start a discussion of, oh, they had a really good funeral.
What would you have?
I'd really like to have something like this. What would you fancy?
And it doesn't have to necessarily be really dark. In fact, it can be quite upbeat if you like.
That's you know, our tombstones or our eulogies. I mean, you know, we've had a laugh about those, but
unless you've got a particularly dark child who's like, well, I just really want everyone dressed in black, full veil, mourning for a week or so, wailing in the streets, that kind of thing.
Is that really what you want, darling?
I want really anything melancholy, anything in a minor key. That'd be lovely.
But my children know what dress I want to be buried in. Yeah. You know, if I went on the way home tonight, they have not got to worry.
And that's it.
About making those decisions.
It's not actually about you, is it? It's about looking after the person.
Reducing that stress while they're in their most vulnerable moments.
Yeah. A lady we were talking to today said it's the last gift you can give your loved one.
That's what I said. Yeah. It's the last gift you can give.
It's a really nice way of putting it. Really nice. Yeah.
So if you could find out when you were going to die, would you want to know?
It's a tricky one because I ask that people as well. Is that at the death deck?
It's not actually.
Because it is a question.
It's one of our originals.
Yeah, it's a question in the death deck. It's a difficult one. I think there's part of me that wouldn't, because we should all live every day as it should be our last. But I don't think we're very good at it because life takes over, doesn't it? We're human.
We're human, and human. We're not meant for total joy all of the time.
So I don't know. There's an element of me that thinks, oh, it might be nice to know whether I've got, if I reach old age, if my genes are good. But there's another part of me that actually, I don't want to know. And I should be trying to embrace life and look at all the positives that we've got.
Yeah. That's a nice answer.
It is really nice answer. And it is, well, you'll know if you ask this question, isn't it wildly different, the answers you get?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And the ones that want to know, they tell you immediately.
Yeah.
It's immediate. With the lady,
it's like they've already thought of it.
She's an American lady who asked her, yep.
Yeah, it's like they've already thought about it.
Yeah.
You know, and what a strange thing to think about.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But at least they're thinking about it.
Yeah. I think you should, try and embrace the joy in life while we can.
So to round things up, if people want to access your services or want to look at what you're doing, can you give us your websites, your socials, all of that stuff?
She said, I can definitely give you my website.
Yeah, I can. I'm just not going to.
No, I can do the website. I just can't remember the social.
We'll tag you in on the socials.
The websites. So I've got www.evolveandflourish.co.uk. So that's that delivery arm of if you want grief workshops or end-of-life planning workshops. If you're an organisation that would like to do some partnership work in, I would advise you to look at the Thriving Connections, which is www.thrivingconnections.co.uk.
Thriving, not thrive and.
No, Thriving.
Okay.
Connections.
We'll tag all that in anyway on our socials.
Lovely.
And we'll tag you in.
I've only got socials for my Evolve and Flourish because I can't be doing however many. It's a lot of work, the social
really
media.
is.
It's a full-time job. And when there's just you, it's just like, geez.
It is.
And I'm on LinkedIn as well.
I know.
Well, thank you so much for talking to the podcast
Thank you for asking.
It's been lovely to talk to you. We've been trying to catch up for so long.
Yeah, thank you.
And we shall hopefully see you again soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear listeners, for tuning into It's a Death Sentence. Please keep listening to our weekly episodes.
And if you like our show, please like, share and subscribe.
We are dying to talk to you.